Clinton's America, the middle class gets crushed. Spending goes up. Taxes go up. In Donald Trump's America, working families get tax relief. Millions of new jobs created. Wages go up. Small businesses thrive. The American dream achievable. Change that makes America great again.
He wears it like a crown. Make America great again. But Trump made his shirts in Bangladesh, his ties in China, and his suits in Mexico.
Two ads going head-to-head. Donald Trump with a new ad and Hillary Clinton's ad over the past weekend. The new ad buy, by the way, for the Trump campaign said to be about $10 million in battleground states. This is a new poll out from Monmouth University, shows Hillary Clinton with a 7-point lead over Donald Trump, with the 4 candidates there. And that tracks roughly where our average of polls that we trust, that we call the special report average of polls, the 5 most recent polls, it has that at almost exactly the same number for all 4, 7 points. Let's bring in our panel. Syndicated columnist George Will, Mara Liasson, national political correspondent of National Public Radio, and Tucker Carlson, host of Fox and Friends Weekend. Okay, Mara, where do you put this race right now as we get ready to head into post-Labor Day, ahead of the first debate, September 26th? Where is this race?
I think that's where it is. She's got a substantial lead, 5, 6, 7 points. That's where it's been. There is a theory about presidential campaigns that once you get into this part of the summer, the dynamic is pretty well set, and only a spectacular collapse or fabulous performance in the debates or a big October surprise can really change the dynamic. But that's where I think the race is.
Tucker.
It's surprisingly close. I mean, given that we used to say in campaigns, you would say one candidate won the day. I can't remember the last day that Donald Trump could claim to have won. The press is united against him. He's had an awful lot of self-inflicted wounds. And yet he's still relatively close. She's definitely winning, of course. But, I mean, their theory of the case that there's this large pool of secret Trump voters, people who are too embarrassed to concede that they're voting for Trump, that becomes real if it gets within 3 points, I think. And we're not that far from it. I'm not saying it's going to get there. I'm just saying she is stubbornly below 50. Tells you a lot.
Their negatives of both candidates, obviously, George, are very high. How much does that mean the impact of these debates will have?
Well, the debates are everything for Donald Trump because he has to change the arithmetic. At this point, she's winning all 11 of the classic battleground states. If she wins the Obama states, the 326 electoral votes, if she loses North Carolina, as he did in 2012, she still wins comfortably. So she's ahead, but it might be fragile, and it's his challenge is to come on stage and rattle her, I assume, by saying that you've studied hard. I didn't. You have mastered your briefing books. I don't know what they are. Let's rumble.
And that will make a difference in people's perception.
I think it could make a difference. Donald Trump has to pass the plausibility test for people. He has to reassure people that they could imagine him being president and beyond his base. And those people are not leaving him no matter what he does or says. They are very, very loyal. He has to expand. That's what all of the indications coming out of the Trump campaign in the past week or two have said, that he wants to perhaps soften his stand on immigration, you know, change what he wants to do to illegal immigrants in this country. That's a recognition that the base is not enough for him. He's got to make it bigger.
A possible change in these debates and the performance of both candidates, but also we mentioned other things can happen. We have this email release that is scheduled for September 13th. Over the weekend, you had a couple of both sides talking about the emails and their impact. Maybe you don't. But they did talk about it. We did have a soundbite, and it was Citizens United saying these emails really show the foundation was in communication with the State Department, the Clinton Foundation, and the interaction of those, and then Donna Brazile saying this is no big deal. I can't even see where the smoke is, even though Hillary Clinton said, I know there's smoke, but there's no fire.
Yeah, they got their metaphors.
Yeah.
Stop that metaphor.
Yeah.
I mean, you heard more of the same. You heard what we already knew. There was actually one of Hillary's employees who was working both at the State Department and the foundations who knew there was this nexus between them. But you saw Doug Band, the president's body man, calling and asking for special treatment for Clinton donors and getting them. What you didn't see so strikingly is any Democrat say, you know what, this actually is bad. It's unethical. It reflects poorly not simply on Hillary Clinton and her campaign, but on the U.S. government, on its competence and its ethics. And I'm out. You haven't seen what you've seen on the Republican side for months, including from someone at this table, lifelong Democrats, or in this case Republicans, saying, you know what, I'm not for this anymore. This candidate is too flawed. Why haven't you? Because the Democratic Party is not an ideological party. It's a party whose only concern is acquiring and wielding power. And I think they've revealed that in a way that's kind of shocking.
George?
The Clintons have been in politics since they got out of law school, which means they've spent their entire adult life asking rich people for money.
Yeah.
And that is, over 20 or 30 or 40 years, corrosive. And it corrodes, among other things, their sense of the little line that gets blurred to the point of erasure between public and private interests. If you've read your Faulkner, you've read all about these folks. They are the Snopeses, and get used to it.
But do you think this story that the public has now fully digested the email story to the point where even if some email comes out September 13th, that they're going to be able to plow through it? Depending on what it says.
The email is going to have to show a quid pro quo. It's going to have to show government action, not seating someone next to Joe Biden at a State Department lunch, but some government action that looks demonstrably corrupt. But
the fact that hundreds of hits on Benghazi, and these are the emails that she said were personal that she deleted, we know that there were foundation emails in there, so obviously none of it is falling under just the yoga and wedding planning.
No, it's had an effect. Why do you think her numbers on honest and trustworthiness are as bad as they are? This is what's causing that. But I do think for it to change the dynamic of the race, to flip what's happening, not only would it have to be a quid pro quo, it would have to be something that would be otherwise contrary to U.S. policy, or she would have to have met with someone that an ordinary Secretary of State, her or her predecessors, would have met with.
I guess, but it does. I mean, what is the Hillary campaign about? I wish somebody.
I know.
Seriously, is it about infrastructure? No, it's about getting power and passing around the fruits of that power to our friends and wielding it for good. That's it. That's not a rationale for a presidential campaign. And I think if she got any scrutiny at all, I'm not saying Trump would win. I'm not defending Trump. I'm merely saying the premise of her campaign is indefensible, and nobody points that out.
Well, she doesn't have a message for a campaign other than I'm
We're
not Donald Trump.
Well,
I'm not Donald Trump. You know, and he's really dangerous and scary.
Because technically, George, this is a change election. It should be a change election if you look at the dynamics of election after election after election.
It is, and it's a wonder at this point that Mr. Trump hasn't been able to take advantage of that. We've just finished a lost decade in this country, a decade in which we had not 1 year of 3% economic growth. The economy is not growing at all right now. And in this atmosphere, which cries out for change, the candidate who's been a national figure now for 20, 30 years is ahead. It makes no sense.
But we'll see what happens after Labor Day.